Hey everyone, if you're new to my channel, I'm Rig, and in this channel we discuss tips, tricks and strategies that help SaaS startups go from 0 to 1 million ARR in 12 months or less. This is part 2 of a 2-part video sequence we are doing on B2B sales funnels. In part 1, we discussed the problem with most B2B sales funnels and why the earlier model of MQLs and SQLs isn't effective anymore. So if you haven't checked that out, I will add a link to it in the description below. You can go watch it later. In part 2, we'll look at some ways in which you can optimize your sales funnels. So the first is educate. There is no strategy for awareness better than education. You have to educate your customers on your product and your space. Educate them in a way that empowers them to make progress and achieve the end outcome that they want to achieve using your product. Educate them in a way that builds trust and gets you seen as the thought leader in the space. And while traditional ways of educating customers include emails and ebooks, that's not the thing I would recommend in 2022. And that's because prospects don't open emails anymore, and with ebooks, maybe they just download and forget about it. And who needs more information? There is enough content out there already. They need only relevant content that inspires them to take some form of action and move ahead in your funnel. And the best way to do that in 2022 is through video marketing. A study by Overler shows that more than 86% of marketing professionals today use video as their primary medium of marketing, and more than 92% of marketing professionals believe that that's the most important part of their marketing strategy. So how do you use video in your strategies and funnels? Don't overcomplicate it. Just use video in your content formats. Rather than just a welcome email when someone signs for the trial of your product, how about a video welcome message from the founder? How about a video course being drip sequenced over the course of a week or a fortnight that teaches the prospect something? There are all these different ways to experiment with it. The second is connect. You have to tell your customers that you understand their pain point. It's been my experience that persuading a customer is a bad idea. The most effective way to impel action is to identify what the customer wants and needs and address that. If you aren't doing that, nothing you say will matter. A good example of this in a B2C scenario is the one I gave in my SaaS marketing strategy example, where I mentioned how a message that says something on the lines of "my product will help you save time if yours is a collaboration tool" might not work if you're selling to the small business owners. A good way to think about this is through this visual diagram. It says that your prospects were doing or using something before your product, and for them, that was business as usual, whether it was using a competitor solution or doing nothing at all. And then something happened that caused them to start looking for new solutions, either actively or passively. And there are 4 forces at play. There's the struggle itself that's pushing them to seek a new solution, and at the same time, the forces of their current habits. The stronger the forces of their current habits, the less likely the prospect is going to make the switch. There's also a mental picture of how life will look better when they make the switch to the new solution. However, anxieties around making the new choice and the fear to pick the wrong one act against the pull of the desired outcome. If your product can successfully overcome the pull of the current habits and the anxieties around making the new choice, then customers are likely going to make the switch. And to tackle both of them, you have to address why switching to your solution is urgent and important, and also address the objections and fears that prospects have respectively. So every piece of content in your funnel shouldn't be content just for the sake of it. They have to be very strategically designed to help the customers understand the consequences of not taking action, for building the case of why customers need to switch to your product and why they should do it right away. So in something like your retargeting campaigns, rather than just creating a video or an image and talking about your product, how about you create a list of all the objections that prospects have and address each of these objections with a video ad. Or better, you can get your previous customers talk about the anxieties and hesitations they had about your product and how switching to the new solution or your product actually made their lives better. So the next is qualify. Sales qualification is the process of understanding whether a prospect is a good fit for your services or not. It allows you to pursue only those leads who are most likely going to purchase your product, saving you time and energy. It's important because it significantly improves your close ratios. Without sales qualifications, you risk pursuing leads who might not be a good fit for your product because of budgetary constraints, organizational challenges, or other factors. Now, most people think of qualification just as assessing whether the prospect can use the product or not. So if yours is, let's say, a sophisticated solution for app marketers, your qualification question will just be, hey, do you have an app for your services? And if so, what's your budget for marketing the app? But I go one step further and let the qualification process help me understand how the entire sales process will look like, how long is it going to take, and how likely is the prospect that I'm engaging going to close at the end. And I usually like to do this with the question, have you done something like this before? In a B2B purchase, the person most directly affected with the problem usually does a lot of research before reaching out to a particular company. So it's extremely likely they're going to say yes, unless yours is a very new or revolutionary product in the market. And they'll tell you the process of how it worked out or didn't work out, who was the technical buyer, the economic buyer. You can even dig deeper on all these questions. And once you have all that information, the sales process becomes very smooth. In the next call, you can even fine-tune your message to exactly resonate with their situation, or even bring in your previous case studies or client success stories to help them relate to the situation, and almost even predict the objections that they're going to raise, because you have all that information of what worked out and what didn't work out with the previous vendor. The last bit is engage. I have repeated this a couple of times and I'll repeat it again. Your customers have to be actively engaged with your product at different stages of their journey. And this isn't just limited to the point where they sign up for your product or a free trial of your product. You have to continue providing them value, which is the thing that SaaS is all about, right? Those MRRs and ARRs. You have to involve them in the entire journey and process, because it's not about what your product can do, but what your customers can do using your product. And there's an important distinction there. The more actively customers are engaged with your product or service, the more likely they're going to continue using it. So when users sign up for your product or service, you have to ensure that customers get to their first value moment, or they get to experience the thing that your product does as quickly as possible. So if yours is a collaboration tool for design teams in the pharma industry that brings together a legal review and marketing teams at one place, and let's say from audience research and customer insight, you know that launching products to market is the most important thing for such teams, then when a prospect signs up for your tool, then you can show him or her simulations of how people are notified for dependency tasks and how the entire process is tracked across the organization. And so alert emails and notifications, while only simulations of the real world situation, will help the prospect experience in real time how the tool ensures accountability, how you can track bottlenecks in the process, and in turn get your products to market on time. And once you've helped your trial user or customer get to their first value moment, you have to think of full value realization. So educate, connect, qualify, and engage. Those are the steps that you need to be following. This was Mrig, and I'll see you in the next video.